Hi, I'm Katie, and this is episode 102 of Ornamentations. This actually marks my 4th Flosstube anniversary. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. Where has the time gone? But thank you all for staying with me or for joining me. If this is your first time, I'm very thankful that you are along for the ride. I have a great episode for you today. It's been months since I filmed a regular Flosstube, and so I have a lot of stitching to share with you. I have finishes, I have whips, I have starts, a little bit of haul, as well as progress on my casket, and then we're going to also talk about color, linen, and building a stash that's useful to you. It's been something that's been on my mind a lot lately, and I thought I might share some of that with you. But that'll be towards the end, so you can just fast forward or turn me off entirely if that's not what you want to listen to. But we'll start today with my stitching, although I do have a couple of just really quick news items for you first. The first is that my project from last year's summer school, Lucretia Robinson's Needlebook, this is the chart cover, obviously there's a actual chart inside it, is now available on my website as a PDF. This is the project itself. It's just a small needlebook inspired by Family China. And then this is the finish, full finishing instructions, templates, as well as tutorials for some of the stitches used on here, basically lazy daisy and wrapped back stitch, which is why I have such smooth curving lines there, are also included in the chart. So both model and paper charts are going to the attic at the end of the week, but in the meantime, if you would like a PDF for this piece, those are available on my website. The story behind this, which was my presentation for last year's summer school, is also up on my YouTube channel, Remember Me, the story of Lucretia Robinson Bray. And if you haven't given the story of Lucretia a listen, I hope you'll take a little time out of your day to do so. It's not long, and while it is ostensibly about a very specific person, I think it really speaks to a more universal theme, which is the importance of needlework and history. I think it's a very universal story, and I've been really glad to hear from those of you who have watched and enjoyed it. Ooh, allergies in a big way. Sorry about that. Anyways, second quick news item before we get to stitching, which is that kits for the Britomart Sampler are back in stock on my website. I have lots of kits in stock and more materials on the way, so I anticipate having a good stock ready for you. So those are kits for both the full kit and then the full kit with class option, which is especially useful if you would like to stitch this piece reversibly as I did, although whether or not you're stitching reversibly, we're going to go through the complete working of this in detail. Class starts September 15th. I know a lot of you are excited. I'm really excited. I've been working really hard to put together what I think is going to be a great course, and I hope you will join us for Britomart. She is also coming to the attic this week and will be on display if you're coming to summer school or if you're going to be in the Phoenix area and you would like to get a look at the model, because video does not do it justice. You can get a little sense of the shine and some of the texture right there, but labor of love, truly. So those are my new news items, and with that, let's get to stitching because I've been doing a lot of it. So we're going to start today with whips, and the first whip I have to show you is long-suffering Oh Sweetie Melody, Eliza Townsend's work by Cross Stitch Antiques. I only gave this a couple of days work since I saw you last, so I don't have a ton of actual stitching progress to show you. I actually had to go back and take a look at my last episode to figure out where I had left off, but it does look more complete, even though there is a fair amount left to do on this in terms of hours. So I evened out the top vases. Those are now complete. Last time, this one was in a bright red and blue, and now I've moved it to, I've restitched it to match the other side. I finished the flowers, although they are all missing their centers. I haven't decided on color there yet, but you can see the structure of what that is going to look like. Ooh, really tripping over my words today. Sorry, guys. And then also the vases underneath them. So that's actually how most of the space of Eliza Townsend is filled visually. This is duplicitously close to a finish. However, there's still a fair amount to do here. So as I said, I haven't filled in the centers of those flowers, but the most important thing remaining is the border. All of the interior carnations are unfinished. Half of them have just a partial structure on them, but that is a whole lot of flowers left to do. There is also the missing satin stitch in the trees and on the peacock tail. That I plan to do as the absolute last step. I'm going to quickly throw this up into a frame for satin stitch. I like having both hands available to work with to control the thread when I am doing satin stitch. And so and also a date will go next to my name. But you can get, oh man, does that look close or what? And also really fabulous. I would be steaming towards a finish here, but I still haven't had that aha moment about what those carnations will ultimately look like. And so I'm kind of just letting it stew. I'm going to know at some point, and until then, goodness knows I have so many other things to work on that I've been kind of okay with just setting this aside and giving it a little space while I think about what goes on. And then this is the back, which is really super clean on this sampler. This is stitched with Soie Surfine on a 45 count jersey cream by Legacy Linen with an original silk conversion. That's listed in the description. It's probably incomplete. I think I will need to add at least one more color for the missing carnations in the border, but otherwise that's what I used on this sampler. One thing I would note is that it is not a one-to-one conversion from the original. I did get some questions about that. I know it's a little hard to follow. Once this piece is finished, I actually know how I used all the thread and all of the places on the sampler, then I will get up on Flosstube and we'll do an actual visual guide to how I used each of these colors so that you can follow along with me if you would like. I love it. It's beautiful. I love all those strong colors. I know this is going to look amazing, but I also don't want to end up with a solution on the carnations that I don't love, so I'm okay with just letting this marinate for a hot minute and returning to it when I know what to do with it. So that's Eliza Townsend's work. Fingers crossed that she is a finish in 2025. In terms of the actual stitching remaining, absolutely I can do it. It's just, do I know what I want to do is the million-dollar question there. And then my other new start, hold please. Okay, so my start before we get to finishes, because most of the cross stitch I have for you today are actually FFOs, so productive, so proud of myself, is Stacy Nash Let Love Grow Pin Keep. This is way out of season because I would like it to be the first Flosstube kit for 2026. We are going to have a Valentine's kit. I think that this is absolutely beautiful. As you can see, it's stitched on a much darker fabric, and there is a good Legacy Linen equivalent to this, Sea Serpent. Luscious. However, as I started pulling colors for this, I knew how I wanted the florals to look. I was looking at that set of silks going, you know, they would come alive on something a little different. So this isn't an obvious choice of ground for a Valentine's Day project, but I love how it's turning out, and I think that you will love it too. Or I hope you will love it too. I love it anyways. So this is my progress on Stacy Nash Let Love Grow with the original silk conversion that will be exclusive to the coming kit on Legacy Linen 38 count wafers cloak. So the medium gray, like I said, probably not an obvious choice for Valentine's, but look at how those colors sing. Absolutely luscious. I feel like you really see the beauty of the roses that Stacy Nash designed with this particular color configuration. So I love it. I'm going to continue working on this, and then I see it finish in a shape like Stacy Nash did her model, but with a subtle, I think, light pink crystal edging around it to give it a little more Valentine's Day pop. I think that is just going to be perfect. And yeah, don't we just love how those pinks come alive on those colors? It just brings out the Wayfarer's Cloak, the ground, brings out the best in these particular shades, I think. So hope to have some more progress to show to you next time, although what all I get done will be a little up in the air because I am going to summer school, and that's always just immersive fun, and I never seem to get any actual stitching done, so fingers crossed I have some work on that. And with that, that's actually all of my cross stitch whips. I do have a start on my back casket panel to show you. We'll do that towards the end, but sticking with cross stitch theme for now, let's talk about finishes, because the rest of the cross stitch I have to show you today are total FFOs. I've been so good with my finishing. So good. I have been doing the finishing. The finishing itself isn't necessarily fantastic. Okay. With that extremely circular statement, let's look at a start and a finish since I saw you last. And this is Notforgotten Farm Parade Sam. This cute little guy is on my list, had been on my list as a thing I would love to get done for my summer school display if I had time. Thankfully I had time. He is tiny and he's so perfect to go with my summer school project in a way that you will get to see next time when I will be showing it to you, or you'll get to see it this weekend if you're going to summer school. So this is my finish of Parade Sam. This is an original silk conversion on legacy linen, 40 count Coastal Haze, and oh, so fun. He's got a lot of little detailing with Bijoux, and I don't think you're really seeing the sparkle here, but he does sparkle. So I will be sharing the silk conversion with you. It's in the description for this episode. You can see I've got two shades in red and blue. That's because I've got a silk Gobelins and a sparkling Bijoux for some sparkle dazzle accents. Where did I use them? So one thing I thought about the original Parade Sam is that I get as a design thing why this was done. I just didn't love the stripy top hat. So I made it just plain, and then I over detailed. I gave him a band on his top hat in Bijoux, and I did that with rice stitch over for after I'd stitched the whole top hat in regular cross stitch. I went right over it. It was fine. And then I also used the Bijoux in his little pinwheel to give it some sparkle. I added a 3mm round crystal in the center for some sparkle, some 15 seed beads to light up his firecracker. Firecracker is also stitched in Bijoux. And then my guy is just a little brighter, a little less prim, but I think it works. It's great on the Coastal Haze. And then one other thing I wanted to notice about the finishing. Okay, those corners are very definitely wonky. I had planned to give him a crystal edging, which can hide a multitude of finishing sins, so I didn't worry too much about this when I was doing it. And you should be able to see. I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick this up, but I do actually have my markings on my fabric where I was going to put all of the crystals, and started putting them on, and it was just too busy. This guy is so small and mighty. I mean, this is the total piece next to a standard spool of thread, that if you put any kind of edging on there, it just detracted from the concentrated awesomeness that is Parade Sam. So no edging on this guy, therefore no way to conceal the finishing flaws. However, that's fine. Also, it doesn't conceal all the little marks I put on the fabric to mark where I was going to put on the crystals, but that's why I do everything on fabric with a semi-permanent methods. Okay, sorry, I had to sneeze again. Allergies are killing me. I don't know what is with the weather lately. But so this is my little guy. His finishing isn't perfect, but he's going to look like absolute perfection with my summer school display, and I will be showing you all of that next time. So if you'd like to stitch Parade Sam with my silk conversion, these are the threads. They'll be listed in the description. Great, fun little stitch. I love this guy so much. So perfect. My project. I'm dying. And then next finish is something that we saw the stitching finished last time that I now FFO'd, and that is Stacy Nash Animal Crackers Paisley. So as we had discussed, I wanted to finish this as an ornament, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I like really structured ornaments. They're usually laced over patterned mat board, and I thought, you know what, why not try that on Paisley? Ooh, okay, cautionary tale here. There's nothing wrong with the method, however, she turned out way too flat. What I would have needed to have done here is to both padded this out more just to give her some shape, and then also pulled in the margins. Now, because this is laced over a form, I can easily take this apart and redo it. I might still do that. I was really tired and just on autopilot the day that I did the finishing on this. I was actually too tired to stitch. I was like, oh, I'll do finishing. Terrible idea. You should not do finishing when you're so tired you don't know your own name. So we've got this pancaked Paisley, but my plan is I'm going to hang her on the tree, and then I'm going to see what I think. I think probably when she's on the tree, I'm going to be a lot less bugged by how annoyingly flat she is. If that's still bothering me, at that point, I'm going to just take this apart, shape the form, and then lace her back up. I think it should be fine, as long as I've pulled the margins in. So I'll have to cut down the mat board that I used, then she'll be good. Loves this, loves the piece. Kind of let her down with the finishing, but if it bothers me, like I said, I can fix that. But oh, isn't she so cute? But yeah, she's got too much space around her because she's not coming out and being shaped with felt. Margin ended up being bigger than I planned. So she's adorable. We'll see how she looks on the tree. I couldn't really bring myself to redo it. Like I said, I was tired and I was just like, And then my last FFO brings me to some color talk. So I now have a third version, and I swear I'm going to stop here. I will stop here. It's the last time I will torment you with this, but version number 3, Stacy Nash Gingerbread House. As we've seen multiple times before, because I've spent so much time with this pattern, we had the first version, which is on 37 count Legacy Linen Smoke Signal. Full pattern, opens up inside, totally not finished yet. We'll do that this holiday. And then I use 3mm silver lined bugle beads to jazz this up. Loved that, but also really fancied the idea of an ornament size version, which is on 45 count Nightingale, in which I used smaller beads for the garlands. We saw this last time, and then, as I think I told you, I've always really loved this little scene on the back, but what always bugged me about it is it's the back. I know it's there, I stitched it, but not gonna see a lot of it on my tree. So, because it's gonna be what you see on the tree. So I decided to stitch a standalone version of it that combined ideas from my two previous versions, namely the ground from this one, or the color ground. So I went to the 38 count version of this, which is called Filbert, and the beads from the 37 count version, and then browns that were a little closer to this. So on my original version, I hued very closely to what Stacy Nash herself did. I used very cool, darker browns. On this version, I used warmer, lighter browns, and that was something I really liked. So I had ideas from both that I wanted to use on my third and final version, I swear. And the Sun 38 count Filbert by Legacy Linen, and it is just the fireplace scene, so I can hang it on the front of my tree. I think it's absolutely adorable. So I used the bugles as I did on the last time, and then I used the warmer browns. So there, I have on all three of these been mixing Gobelins with a metallic thread Bijoux to have two browns, and it never shows well on camera, but it's absolutely luscious. And this is a color called Amber. So on this one I went just, and there we have the obligatory Katie drop something on her Flosstube. So if we've got the three all together, darkest, lightest, and then kind of not quite splitting the difference here, but splitting the difference in value while keeping some of the redder tones from this version. So with each version, I think I refined my approach just a little bit, and I really like the results. The other thing that I did here is, you might notice that those little hearts dangling above the fireplace are not in cross stitch. They are in satin stitch. I recharted them slightly to just smooth those lines out, and then satin stitched them with Soie de Paris, which makes for beautiful, beautiful satin stitch. So this is just a really super compressed conversion, and most of the colors are borrowed from my previous version, but I will be listing what I used for just this fireplace scene in the description. The notable things are the Soie de Paris in 945 for the satin stitch, and then the Gobelins and Bijoux browns that were used for the fireplace if you liked that color scheme the best. So the three all together. Ooh, which I can't hold very well. All together. Love it. And oh, one more change. Oh, yes. Sorry, it took me a minute because I have written something down and I'm looking at my outline going, I don't even know what that means. It's quite subtle. I don't think the camera's even going to pick it up, but on here I've used creme, which is called for, and then here instead of a white or off-white, I've actually used the sparkling Bijoux gold dust. So it's not lighting up on camera, but this thing is going to absolutely dazzle once it's on the tree. So these will hang on my tree, and then this can just sit around sparkling on my Christmas decorations. Love it. So 3 versions, and I can now finally put this poor chart, which has been much abused, away in my stash. But I hope you've enjoyed seeing how I've played with this piece, doing slightly different iterations, and we are now finished and we can draw a line under the entire adventure. So the other thing I wanted to mention is where I am on my 12 by 12. So Karen of Fox and Rabbit, Michelle, Mama Loves You, GB, and I, and some of you are doing a 12 by 12. One ornament for every month. This was July. This is August. And I'm ahead because this guy is September. Overachieving on the Christmas front. What a surprise. But I'm now ahead of schedule, which is great. I may continue to work ahead of schedule. My next plan for a 12 by 12 is we're going to go back to the idea of super colorful, very bright prairie schooler Santas. So I might have a start for you next time. Probably not, just given how busy the next couple of weeks are going to be, but there will be continuing progress on my 12 by 12 as we move forward. And all this talk of Filbert and Nightingale on the Stacy Nash Gingerbread House versions made me think that it was a good time to talk about linen. In some future episodes, I will be doing more color comparisons of linens that I have in stash, as many of you said that you found that helpful, and I do have some ideas for like ways I would like to talk about how they relate to each other. But today I wanted to feature a particular set of shades, and the theme here is not color per se, but linens that were so special to me, at least. I don't have to speak to you, that I felt like I had to buy a full yard of them. So a few of them that would have made the grade are not on here because I have piles and piles of remnants of them from kits. That would be like Himalayan Fog, for example. But on the whole, these represent my most loved linens. I have learned the hard way with silk fabric over the years that if you see something you really, really love, you should stock up because it may not always be there. There are some few things in my silk stash that, ooh, I cheaped out on, and now I really regret it because I can't go back and get more. Learned that lesson, and now I apply it to linen. And the first one is the most recent purchase. This is one of the new Legacy 40 counts. Sorry about the crinkle. I haven't even opened this one yet because I cut previously. And this is Coastal Haze. Ooh, really, that's better. It's actually a very, very light gray. You could use it as a neutral. You could even almost use it as a off-white. When I saw this, I was struck by Cupid's arrow just because of the utility, the fine feel of the linen, and body yarn. Next thing on the list of Katie's full linear yardage, those would be the two 48 count linens. So March Pain and Bride Cake, which is lighter. When you hold them up next to each other, there you can see the color difference between them, because when you're looking at March Pain in isolation, so, ooh, hold please. Looking at March Pain in isolation, as say on Paisley, it doesn't necessarily look like it has that much color to it. It's barely differentiated from the Blanc, for example, it's used to stitch Paisley with. However, when you hold it up to something that, and still we're not into optic white here, Bride Cake is a true off-white, then you can see just how much color that really does have in it. Subtleties of off-white are one of my favorite things with linen, so I love both of these. I love the feel of the stitching on it. I love the feel of the linen in my hands. Because I cross stitch in hand, stitching is a really tactile experience for me, and so the feel of the linen is something that really adds just to my enjoyment of the process. I might be a super freak. Anyways, these I would actually rank as my desert island linen. If you could only take one linen with you, both of them, like the 248 count linens from Legacy Linen are one group. If you could only take one, probably March Pain, but I see myself using a lot of Bride Cake in the future. It's absolutely luscious. So Bride Cake is going to be what my new Sampler September start is going to be on. And then other thing I have a full yard of. 5363 Sicilian marzipan, which is what I stitched AKGIT on. Well, this dye lot is what I stitched AKGIT on. Older one with a little more color to it that looked more like the current color on Marchpane is what I stitched Plum Street my early days on. It's a little pinker in tone, has a little more color to it. The dye lot I bought the yard from is a true off-white, and this is what I stitched AKGIT on. Now, for the record, I do not actually think I am going to use a full linear yard of 5363 in my lifetime. So with Legacy Linen and linear yard would actually be 71 inches by 36 inches. That is a lot of 5363. Having said that, it is legitimately one of the most beautiful fabrics I have ever encountered. I loved the experience of stitching on this. I think partly because AKGIT was such a special pattern. I mean, one that just suited me down to the ground. But the feel of the linen on my hands, of feeling the stitches build up on them, the texture that accrues against the very fine feel of the linen, which I keep on compulsively stroking because seriously, I wish I had sheets that were this nice. Oh, Sicilian marzipan is legitimately one of the most beautiful fabrics, period, not just linens, that I have ever encountered, and that's saying a lot for somebody who counts their home fabric store as Britex, the palace of fabric. Sicilian marzipan. Bought it just because I love it, not because I necessarily think I need that much 5363. Although, you never know. Enough samplers and no, I'm totally not going to use a full yard of this. And then last thing in this class, 38 count Legacy Lemon Filbert, which is this guy. Totally justified by the result. Filbert is now discontinued, but I still have lots of it, which is thrilling because it's quite an unusual shade, one that I really love. I think colors look absolutely beautiful on it. You can see different things in Filbert depending on the lighting. Sometimes the purple really comes out, sometimes the brown, sometimes the gray. It's always shifting, and so I find it fascinating. I knew I was going to want to use this regularly, and therefore I stocked up on it, and the fact that it's discontinued doesn't affect me one bit. So the lemon cording works for me, but I would note that I'm also a fairly focused stitcher. I know what I like, I know what I want to stitch on, I know what my habits are, and therefore I won't use all the 5363, but I am probably going to get through the rest of what we have seen today. It'll take me a hot minute, but you know, that's fine. Those were actually all past purchases, but I do have a little actual haul, not very much. The first is the Workbox Pincushion Kit from Susan Stanley. That's a photo of the project, and I, unfortunately, it came all nicely tied, but I ripped everything apart just so I could take a look when it came. So it came with full instructions, pattern, and then everything you need. I would love to make this pincushion. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Haven't had time to even start, just pet the fabrics is all that I have actually done. Susan's packaging, as always, is really just detailed and beautiful. And so I'm hoping I will get to this soon. Probably not before I see you next time, but this is something that I really want to make. I was really struck by it when Susan came out with these originally, so I signed up on the waiting list. It came back into stock. Now it's mine. I also pre-ordered something I want to be sure to share with you, and that is Anne Wildman from Jean Lee collection, as well as the 103 silks, which are being offered by the Attic. Note, this is only being offered, for now at least, as a complete kit, not chart only. So in the Flosstube that announced this project, I'm going to link to that in the description as well if you haven't seen it. It was very moving, and you can see the project itself, which is beautiful. Carolyn talked about us all needing each other, the way that all the parts of the industry work together, and how nurturing Jean was. True story, as someone who knew Jean, not as well as Carolyn, Jean was truly a custodian of needlework. She wasn't just a custodian of the stitching in the way that we are all when we stitch, we are perpetuating stitching. When we share our stitching, we are perpetuating stitching. That makes us all custodians of needlework. But Jean was extra special because she was also a custodian of the needlework business, of the supply chain and the business and the entire ecosystem that produces things to stitch for us all, that takes an antique sampler or a thought from a designer's head and puts it into your hands as a chart with thread, with linen, with everything that you need to make your very own version. I should really be holding up a sampler here because we're talking about Jean, but this was what was closest to hand and also an awesome project. So that's my example here. So we're gonna have just a short story time here. It feels appropriate in the lead up to summer school. It's actually gonna be my third summer school. I can't believe it. It feels like I was just in agonies of excitement and nerves leading up to the first one. That was yesterday, and yet somehow the third one is almost upon us. Okay, so back to the actual story. Back in the early days of COVID, my great aunt Annie sent me a box out of nowhere. No warning that this was coming, by the way, and with a note inside that I was the person to take care of these things. And in it there were several just family textiles, one of which was my great grandmother's wedding dress, which is not what you would expect. Not white. It was a beaded black satin flapper dress. My eyes almost fell out of my head when I was like, this is the wedding dress, really? So that belonged to Genevieve, and her mother, Sadie, who would be the Sadie of the Lucretia presentation, by the way, had an absolute hern and made her buy something appropriate and white. But on her wedding day, Genevieve strutted out of the house in her beaded black flapper dress and got married in it despite everyone's presentations. Presentations. Mixing my... Anyways, I come from a family of women who know their own mind. Let's just say that, and wear beaded black flapper dresses to their wedding. There were also some other dresses from the 20s, one which was fully handmade lace. Oh my goodness. And then there was the absolute superstar treasure of the box, and that is this, the Civil War Soldier's Sewing Kit, also known as a housewife of my great-great-great-grandfather. So when this piece came to me, I'm just gonna carefully unroll it and then put it safely back in its archival storage box, because yes, I am very conscious of how much history is just sitting around in my house these days. Anyways, so when it came to me, it had just a note that said Civil War Sewing Kit of Thomas Bellman Bray and nothing else. So at that point I started a full bore research project to put some substance behind that. Who was Thomas Bellman Bray? What did he see in the Civil War? And what did this housewife see in the Civil War? It's just an astounding piece of history. And so by early 2023, I had started to hammer all of that together into a story. I had answers to those questions, and they were starting to coalesce into a narrative, a larger narrative. And I felt like I really had something there. I thought it might even be good enough for summer school, but I tore myself into bits over asking. It was way too much to ask. I was nobody. I couldn't just walk into the attic and be faculty. That was crazy, right? And the thing is, I don't know that I ever would have worked up the nerve to pitch this project to Jean. But then I opened my email, and there was an email from Jean asking me to consider teaching at summer school that year. She didn't know about the housewife. She didn't know that I had this years-long research project that I was looking to present. She just saw something and she had faith in me and she extended a hand. And the thing is, I am not special at all in that sense. She nurtured so many people over the years, and when she saw talent, when she saw someone with something to offer or to give our community, she wanted to help them along out of love, because that was who she was, and out of care for the needlework business. So to me, that is Jean's legacy, not just what she did for me, but what she did for so many others and what she has done for us all as a result and helped to grow this community. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. It's just, she's a really special person. And so I am really looking forward to stitching Anne Wildman in Jean's honor as a tribute of love to the woman who gave us all so much, not just to me. I will be showing this piece to you once I get my kit. The attic is currently taking pre-orders. They're projecting to ship sometime in September. I am even going to stitch the full verse as charted because I think it so perfectly embodies who Jean was. She was truly kind and loving. So that's a plan. I am also going to stitch it on 5363 because I gotta have the full Jean experience. That's just a thing. And then when I finish Anne Wildman, I am going to frame it, put it on my desk, think of Jean when I see it, and remember to always walk forward in kindness, love, and hope. Okay, so having just had a lot of blah, 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 I do still have some stitching to show you, and that is my casket stitching. So I have started the back side of the casket that we have been following, and I have a fair amount of progress. I don't think I had started this the last time. No, I definitely hadn't started this last time I saw you, so this is all going to be new. And this is where I am. So that is almost all of the flower on the right side. Right side. I have left side, right side blindness. Gets embarrassing sometimes. So there's another detail that's going to go here as a spray under the leaves. It needs a mound. But look at how fabulously textured that flower is. So that is detached needle lace. It's wired. That's what gives the edge so much shape. And then I have worked it in holly point because, ooh, why not? It's so much fun. I have also started the frieze, which is just going to be an extended version of the friezes that we saw on the previous two sides, and that's because I want to see all of the elements here before I make my next decisions, and this is just a logical place to go next because I already know what this looks like. I made those decisions with the first frieze, so this is just purely mechanical work here, no design quandaries at all. And then I have also started on the cartouche. So the oval itself is going to take the same shape on all four sides. I have the gilt twist surrounded by pearl gimp. Those are both specially gold-work threads that were purchased from Thistle Threads. I have stitched the side sprays. There's going to be a bird in the center, just as with all the cartouches. They're just variations on a theme. And then, sorry, I'm waving this around a lot, I know, but I'm trying to hold this up and position it to the camera, which is not easy. Okay, so the side mounds are needle lace that is just worked flat on the ground. It's not detached like the flowers. And this is just a really simple variation on detached buttonhole stitch that is worked in Soie Gobelins. I'm going to hold it at an angle so that you can see the texture differential between the side and the center mounds. The center mound is worked in loops of silk wrapped pearl, which is also what I did for the center mound on the previous casket panel that we were looking at. This is just plain silk wrapped pearl as opposed to the what Trisha is calling frosted silk wrapped pearl, which is a silk wrapped pearl that has a gilt overwrap at intervals. So this is just plain silk wrapped pearl, size 2. Okay, that is a better color representation. For some reason, when I am in this configuration and I hold the piece straight on, it just darkens all the colors and obscures a lot of the detail. So that's why I'm holding, because there's a lot of color difference between the side and the center, and yet when I go full on, that just totally washes out. So we're gonna look like that so you can get kind of a better color sense there. So for the next time, I'm hoping I can just knock out that freeze, and then I will move down to the missing flower on the left side, and then we are, well, not we, I am going to have to deal with the cartouche. So on the short sides, the front and back are longer than the sides of the casket. On the short sides, you just had oval, flower, flower. That was all there was room for. On the long sides, the cartouche needs to be extended to fill this currently negative space. As you can see, I currently have nothing drawn on the fabric. I do have a design for how I think I want to fill that space. However, I'm not 100% about that. I can see it in my head, but what I really want to do to feel comfortable about that is put everything else in on the panel. Have the bird done on the cartouche, have the motif, have both flanking flowers with their mounds, have everything else done. So I'm looking at completed piece, and then I'll know if my idea to extend those cartouches is going to work with my other decisions that I am more wedded to. I want that to be the last thing so it fits everything else, and I'm not having to rearrange my ideas about the things I'm certain on. So one thing about stitching is when you're doing your own work, or if you're designing a conversion or whatever, start with what you know and then work outward and fill in the question marks when you have more to go off and base your decisions on, is generally how I try to proceed. So that's my plan. This is the back, which is a really good illustration of how little stitching actually went through to the back here. So much of this is needle lace or applied work, because yeah, that's the differential. Still a lot of negative space here, but a lot of work has actually been done. All that holly point is very definitely no joke. So casket stitching, hopefully a freeze for next time. I'm not sure how much more, because I have also been doing a little beading, which is very, very naughty. I should be focusing on my casket, but ooh, I got some exceptional beads, and I just couldn't help myself. I had to play with them, so I've been starting a new spray for my beaded basket. Right now that's just a pile of parts, which is why we're not looking at it, but I should have the beginning of an actual spray of beaded flowers to show you next time. So we will be looking at that next time. The last thing I have for you today is that almost all of the giveaway winners from the 100th episode have come forward. Thank you, but there are 2 who did not. So for these 2, you have until September 1st to contact me. Use the contact form on my website to email me your mailing address, or I will redraw for the next episode. And that is one winner for the neutral linen pack, which is Maureen Minker Inc. 827. And then one of the winners for the gray linen pack, winner Anita's Space. So please claim your prizes, or gonna pick your winners. So everything else got claimed. Thank you to the winners for coming forward so promptly. Always love that when I don't have to chase people. And then that just about brings me to the end of this episode. So for next time, I am going to be back from summer school, and I will be showing you my project, which I'm just so excited about, as well as recapping what is going to be a really special event Jean did plan this summer school. She put a lot of love and thought into it, and I know that we, the faculty, are all putting our best foot forward for that. I am also going to have my mom on as a guest to join me in the summer school recap. She is coming with me, and she will be showing you her own progress on Fox and Rabbit's Margaret Lagertwood. She's come really far. It looks amazing. She's also going to be bringing it for show and share. For those of you who are at summer school, you'll get to see it in person. It is a stunning piece. She's been working on it for months next to me, and I keep on looking over at that being like, oh my god, why am I not stitching that? We don't both need to do it. I am enjoying just looking at hers, but stunning. I will have some beading, as I just mentioned, hopefully some casket stitching, and then I am also planning a very special start for Sampler September, because it will be the very start of September when I see you next. I'm getting everything ready for that, and I am really excited to share it with you. So as a final reminder, kits for the Britomart Sampler, kit alone or kit with class, are in stock on my website. I hope you will join us for the Britomart Sampler, but I will see you again in 2 weeks. Until then, happy stitching.